What's up, y'all? It's your man, Chaz And for some of you who haven't heard, a South Carolina police officer is being charged with murder after shooting an unarmed man, Walter Scott, after pulling him over for a traffic violation. He had a burnout tail light. Officer pulled him over, and some things ensued afterwards, and he ended up shooting him. Now the officer's being charged with murder. Now, initially, what the officer's attorney said was that he and Scott got into a physical altercation where Scott tried to grab his taser and use it against him, and the officer was fighting for his life and ended up having to shoot him. Turns out, the officer was in fear for his life and ended up having to shoot him. Turns out, after watching a video, video surfaced that Samaritan took and gave to the family. After seeing the video, it tells a totally different tale where Scott is actually turning around, running away from the officer. The officer did not take one step in his direction, so it wasn't like he was even trying to chase the guy down. He just shot, just depending on what he was shooting out of, he may have even emptied the clip in his back. So, it was just crazy to watch. It was because it was somewhat surreal, because you're just watching a human being just being gunned down by another person. And I don't usually say this about these shootings. I honestly don't, because I always say actually the opposite. I say, well, it's not like a cop got up in the morning and decided, hey, I'm just going to kill somebody today. But this guy, I really believe that he got up in that morning and decided he was going to kill somebody that day. And like I said, I don't generally say that. I do believe that he got up in the morning and decided that he just wanted to kill somebody. And this kind of thing is so problematic because there are a lot of good police officers out there. There are a lot of people that's just trying to do their job. But whenever you do run into somebody like this, it makes you question everything that's ever happened before and everything that will happen after. He is being charged with murder. So that just shows that, this police department, this city, in this particular situation, is doing what they should be doing and doing what should have been done in a lot of these other cases. Now, I'm not saying that they're the same thing. Of course, this case is just very clear cut. When somebody's running from you, and for those of you that don't know, you can't shoot a nonviolent fleeing felon. Tennessee versus Garner prohibits that. That was a Supreme Court case a long time ago that prohibits you shooting nonviolent fleeing felons. So you can't say, oh, you stole something, pop, 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 let me shoot you. You just can't do that. But anyway, this city is doing the right thing because they actually are charging the officer with murder. And if you look at a lot of these other cases, like the case that really kind of started it all was Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. When you look at what happened there, the outrage was not necessarily about the fact that George Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin. The outrage was about the fact that nobody seemed to be wanting to do anything until the protests started, until people started trying to get justice for Trayvon. That's the thing. It's not whether or not you think George Zimmerman was guilty or whether or not you think Trayvon Martin was a thug or whatever people believe. It's not even about that. It's about, hey, when you shoot somebody, you generally get arrested, because there's absolutely no way. I want you to understand this. There's no way that a police officer, and I've worked in law enforcement, there's no way that a police officer could come on the scene of a crime or a shooting like that and say, this person who was unarmed posed such a threat to this other person that they had a reason or a right to shoot them. There's no way you could do that in just one preliminary investigation. Oh, okay, let me just walk off. Yeah, looks like self-defense. Unarmed dude shot, looks like self-defense. So for George Zimmerman to get arrested, and even if he would have gotten acquitted, I don't think that the story would have been so big. I honestly don't think there would have been a case. And when you look at Mike Brown, you look at Eric Gardner, when you look at some of these different situations, what's happened there is the Mike Brown situation, a lot of different stories came out, and people didn't really know exactly what was going on or what happened, but people just wanted to see that swift justice. Let's see something happen immediately, and you let us know. With Eric Gardner, it was kind of a situation where the police officers were wrong in that situation. If you understand the policies of policing, then you know they were absolutely wrong. And the reason why is because I'll just give it to you from a technical, there's no emotion involved in that, from a technical aspect. Now, if you are a police officer in pretty much any department, what they call an LVNR, or lateral vascular neck restraint, is not able to be used unless it is considered a deadly force situation. Now, the move itself, this is a chokehold, basically a rear naked, and as they would call it in MMA or whatever, when you put that chokehold on somebody. All right. Now, if you do that, you're not allowed to do that unless it's a deadly force situation. The reason why is because the move itself is not deadly. But because of the fact that you're messing around with someone's neck, that means that clearly everything you do there can be deadly. Because everyone's not going to apply that move right. There might be situations where the person does different movements or something like that that can cause it to go south on you. And for that reason, they made it that way. Okay, so if you have a group of officers and an unarmed person like they did, using that move, there's just no reason for it. You just can't justify that. You know, and the other officers, and goes to my second point on this, a lot of this stuff that's going on, a lot of the way that officers are being looked at is actually a result of this thin blue line, where good officers, we're calling them good for the purposes of this, where good officers protect or align themselves with bad officers, defend their behavior. If people would have just came out and said, hey, you know what? I can see where there were some procedural errors here. This person's not necessarily a bad person, but I can see there were some procedural errors here that caused this other person to die. And this wasn't their intent, though. If someone would come out and just said that in those other cases immediately, then people would look at it and say, oh, okay, I see what you're saying. I see he just messed up. He may not have been trained properly. He may have done something wrong but it wasn't malice. You know, and we need to work on that aspect of it, as well as the relationship that these police officers have with the community. Now, and I say that I'm talking about this to say this. When you do that as a police officer, when you stick up for people that you know are wrong, it's basically like if I have a friend who rapes a girl and I go and I try to help him cover it up, I'm now a rapist because I'm helping a rapist. Most people will agree with that. Damn, if you help a rapist, yeah, you're a rapist. If you help a child molester, yeah, you're a child molester. You're supposed to go to jail too. So that lumps all the police officers in together because they're trying to defend each other. Now when you look at a case like this that is so clear cut, where you got somebody just pop shots off in a guy's back for no reason, you know, just to try to kill him. I mean, he's killing him. He's murdering the guy. When you look at that, it lumps all of these other situations together. And it lumps all the situations that are going to happen in the future. Because police officers didn't say, hey, that was a procedural error when that happened before. Oh, well, this guy, I can see where you could say he was wrong here. But he wasn't trying to kill him. He's not a murderer, but he was just messed up. So if they would have said that in those cases, it wouldn't lump all of these together. Because now it's like, okay, this is obviously a clear-cut case. There's nobody who could defend this. I'm sure somebody will. I'm sure somebody, well, if you don't break the law, then somebody will shoot you in the back. What kind of person even thinks like that? So you're saying if you don't break the law, then the police won't break the law? They're breaking the law too. You're not allowed to shoot people in the back. You're not allowed to just shoot people who pose no threat to you. Duh. That should be obvious to anybody. But anyway, so when you start thinking like that, what it does is just puts people on different sides. Now all of these things lump together. And I want to say also, big ups to the people who protested for Trayvon Martin, Mike Brown, the I Can't Breathe movement, all of that, the Hands Up, Don't Shoot, Justice for Trayvon, all of those things that happened. What you may or may not realize and what the news may or may not cover is the fact that the reason why this guy, Walter Scott, is going to get justice, most likely, because there's not been a conviction yet, but the reason why he's going to get justice for him and his family is because of the fact that you did what you did. If you wouldn't have been out there in Missouri, if you wouldn't have been out there in Florida, if you wouldn't have been out there in New York making your protest, if you wouldn't have done that, this person most likely wouldn't be getting justice right now. Even with this videotape probably never would have made TV. This videotape probably never would have even been important to people. This situation probably never would have been important. Justice probably wouldn't have been as swift. You will probably never get credit for what you've done. You'll probably never get credit for the work you put in. And this is whether people agree with them or whether they agree with the movements or not. It really doesn't matter. I'm just telling you, logistically, this is what's going on. Because of the fact that these people put in the work, they put in the effort, and they showed that they would shut these cities down, they would shut these areas down if they don't feel like they're getting justice. Even though the news will probably never tell you that you made a difference, they'll say, oh, well, look, they're still doing it anyway. No, what you did was you let them know, these people in South Carolina know, they don't want South Carolina messed up. They don't want their lives messed up by the next movement. So they're going to give you swift justice so that no one will have a reason to protest. This is what should have been done in those other cases. If there was swift justice, I'm not saying that they needed a conviction. I'm not saying that they needed to even, that these people had to go to jail or that they were right or wrong or whatever the case may be. That's a case-by-case basis. But what I'm saying is people want to see justice. People want to see the judicial process working. And then when it's not working, this is what you get, people feeling hopeless and feeling like they have to work outside of the system. This is why you're not seeing protests. This is why you're not seeing people rioting over this situation, because they're seeing swift justice. It's like, okay, well, we're seeing justice. And they're not seeing, cops huddle around each other saying, oh, well, he didn't do anything. I want you to think about this. What if that videotape wouldn't have surfaced? I want you to sit here and think about this. When you talk about Mike Brown, when you talk about Trayvon Martin, when you talk about some of these situations, I want you to sit here and think about this. What if this videotape wouldn't have surfaced and the story would have been, he tried to grab my taser and I shot him to protect myself? What if that would have been the story? What do you think people would be saying right now? They'd be probably talking about how this guy was some thug and he tried to kill this cop and all this crap, when the story is so far from that. But think about all the times you don't get that tape. Think about all the times that it's one person's word against another. This makes you question and second guess every situation that you hear about and every situation that you get bits and pieces of. Because in real life, in all actuality, there's a lot of these things that happen. There's a lot of guys who really aren't guilty, who really didn't try to assault the police officer. I'm not trying to say let all these, criminals out of jail or whatever. And some of these people aren't just black. I believe some of these cops are racist, but I don't believe it's just a race thing. Believe me, there's a lot of white people getting popped too, and no one's ever going to care. Because nobody protested when that happened. Because nobody made a big deal out of it when some of those other cases happened. You're going to still be getting shot, brutalized, and no one's going to care. So I just got to say big ups to everybody who's done what they've done to make this a situation where you could see some people start getting justice. And I want to say in the future, let's not judge people based on what they look like, and let's not be so quick to just dismiss somebody when they say, hey, something may have happened. And for all the police officers out there, a lot of you guys are really good and you're doing your job, I know. But you got to speak up when you see something wrong. Otherwise, you're lumping yourself in with the bad ones. Hopefully, I was able to help everybody out. That's just my opinion on the subject. Y'all put y'all opinions down there in the comment box. It's your man, Chazzellis. Peace.